Welcome to SVCH Talks, where innovation meets inspiration, and every conversation sparks transformation. Here we unlock the future, share cutting-edge insights, and empower you to lead the way in a world driven by knowledge and discovery. Let's elevate together, because the next breakthrough starts here.
We're thrilled to have you join us for a day filled with insightful discussions, groundbreaking innovation, and transformative learning. Today, you'll have the unique opportunity to hear from industry leaders as they share their expertise, experiences, and best practices. Before we move forward, remember that you can obtain the micro-credential for this event. Just follow the instructions on our website. Don't miss this chance to certify your participation and learning. Now we're ready to start. Let's dive into the broadcast that our team has prepared for you. Enjoy it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this exclusive webinar to talk about one of the hot topics in the industry, in marketing, in AI. And there's a lot of things happening in AI, a lot of speculation. And the goal of this session is to bring in and have a deep conversation with Marcos. Marcos, he's the expert who can share insights, recommendations generated by AI engineers and working with real data that will help us to drive growth with AI. So, Graphite is a vertical AI growth agency that helps companies like Webflow, Notion, Masterclass, Captions, and all of them are driving sustainable revenue growth with SEO and AEO. Marcos is with us. How are you, Marcos?
I'm doing very well, Alejandro. Thank you for the welcome and the introduction. Thank you for having me here today.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit of what you do in Graphite. Maybe I explain like really broad, and then let's jump into and also a little bit about you, and then let's jump to your great
For sure.
presentation.
Let's do it. Maybe we can start sharing screen. I actually have a couple slides about us in the presentation.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go.
Ready.
So today we're going to be talking about answer engine optimization, as we call it, AEO. It's the future of SEO. And I'm Marcos. I'm one of the co-founders at Graphite. I've been doing growth marketing, SEO, and product management for well over 10, 12 years. And I've had a number of roles, both in-house and as an advisor at multiple very successful tech companies. And today, I'm here on behalf of Graphite, my current company, and we are an AI-powered growth team, a growth agency that works mostly with venture-backed companies, but not limited to them, kind of across the whole range of consumer companies, B2B companies, marketplaces, and our big focus is on driving impact for them. Impact in terms of SEO traffic and now AI traffic or AI visibility. These are some of the companies that we work with, like Alejandro mentioned. We have companies like Webflow, who is a great partner for us. We do a lot of work with them across the board. B2B companies like Rippling, Oyster, or even health tech companies like Hinge are companies that we have helped grow their SEO traffic, and we're now helping in terms of AEO. Today, we're going to be talking about answer engine optimization. This is also sometimes in other verticals, it's called, or in other circles, it might be called GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. But in general, what we're trying to target here, and we're not really attached to the name, we're attached to the impact and the results. And what we want to help our customers achieve is visibility as we're shifting how consumers interact with the web. And so the first chapter in here, I'm going to be talking a little bit about why is this important and what we're seeing. And then later in the presentation, I'm going to be talking about how we're going to be changing our strategies in terms of shifting from traditional search and SEO to answer engine optimization. So the first data point that is very interesting and impact or like interesting to look at is that AI as a channel for consumers, as a consumer channel, is growing. So 10 years ago, we had this happen with maybe social or mobile, and they became new channels that as marketers, as executives, we needed to be in. So companies started building their mobile apps, or companies starting to build a social strategy, a content strategy to be on social, on Facebook, at the time, later on Instagram, and so on. And this is happening today with AI and AI chat. And what we're seeing here is a market share of some of the top players. This market share, in terms of number of visitors, is growing very fast. It's impressive. And one data point that we like to look at is similar web data. So you can actually you can look at the data on a monthly basis, and you can see that the numbers are staggering in terms of the number of visits that these platforms are seeing, but also their growth. For example, a couple months ago in September, we had Gemini grow about a 40% month over month, passing 1 billion visits. And then when you see the number of unique visitors, it's also staggering. Just a massive amount of reach and customers that are using these platforms. And so this is the first data point that we're seeing. But then we also, okay, so these platforms have a lot of people using them. How is that impactful to a company? And so this right here is a case study for Webflow. And over the last year, so since July 24, the number of users that are reporting that they have discovered Webflow through an AI chatbot has grown to 8%. So almost double digit share of their total signups. And this is only going up. So we're seeing huge increase in how customers report their self-reporting of where they found out about a specific product or a company, and how that experience in the AI chat influenced their decision-making process. So again, it's not only a big platform, it's a platform that is impacting purchase decisions. And so as marketers, we want to make sure we are there. How does this look like in terms of like user behavior? So people are going to these models and they're asking questions. And in the classic model, so we have this thing that is called the LLM, the large language model, which is a base product. And then we have these sort of hybrid experiences that are combining that core product, which is a generative chatbot, with a search engine. So in ChatGPT, what this looks like is when you ask a question, it uses something called retrieval augmented generation, where the retrieval part is basically search. It's a fancy way of saying it's searching, and then it's synthesizing what it's seeing in those results. And then from the Google side, we're seeing the opposite. They had a search engine, and they're adding the syntheses from the LLM. And so we're basically seeing a convergence from the two worlds coming into the same UX, which is Google is adding the generative component and the LLMs are adding search. And so we're seeing this convergence across the board. So you're seeing it across categories. So what we used to know as local SEO, now you basically have these maps and these experiences for hotels and restaurants. We're seeing the same thing in shopping. This is actually a screenshot from ChatGPT, but if you run the same query on Google, you will see a similar experience. And we're also seeing the same thing in more B2B transactional queries. One nuance here, one interesting thing is that Google Search is a mature market that has built a number of features in addition to search. For example, ads or organic or native features from the search engine that steal click rate from organic results. However, in ChatGPT, we basically see 100% of organic kind of, when you look at the real estate in the screen, it's all organic. So while Google is at maybe only less than half and Bing is way less than half of the results, only 20% of the results are, or the screen real estate in a search query is organic. In ChatGPT and Perplexity and these new models, a lot of the content is organic. We're not seeing ads yet, and we're not seeing kind of these native features yet. And so basically, even if they're smaller, we have a way bigger surface to play with as marketers. And so I'm going to shift into our next topic here, which is how do we map out AEO topics? And so in the SEO world, Graphite uses an approach that we call topical SEO. And what we do in topical SEO is we take lists of keywords and we group them into something we call a topic. So a topic is a cluster of keywords that all have the same intent. So you'll see these are different ways of asking a search engine for the same thing. And that same thing, in this case, we're calling it the topic name. It can be anything. Like this is just a way for us to give this group of keywords a name. And what's important here is that there's some user intent, which is a user is searching for some sort of project management tool or software. And so how do we tackle this as marketers or as SEO people is we need to create a page that can rank for this user intent. And so in this case, you probably, from just looking at the queries, you need the user wants to see a list of products so that they can decide which one is the best for them. In AEO, the topics become groups of questions. And so the groups of questions are going to be different ways in which the users are expressing the same user intent. So in SEO, we have the search queries, which are like a compressed version of asking a question to a search engine and getting a few results back so you can achieve something. That's your user intent. The thing that you can achieve usually is learning something, buying something, going somewhere. And so you want a piece of information, you want a page where you can transact, you want an address or some sort of link to go to a specific page, or you want like a map result. In AEO, we see something similar, right? So we're seeing very similar consumer behavior. I like to see them as like parallel universes of the same user intent. So if as a user, I'm a business owner and I need our agency to purchase a new tool to manage projects, I am going to be running some of these questions to understand which one to buy, to make my research and decide on a specific product. And so you basically end up with something like this, right? So we know as a user from this side, I'm searching for project management software. And there's all these ways in which people are asking this question. So in the long tail, this becomes like a huge opportunity. And the main difference between the SEO world and the AEO world is that we're seeing a compression of the search journey. So before you would ask Google, you would type in best project management software, you would read a few articles, and then you would search for something else. In AEO, what we're seeing is the long tail becomes a lot thicker. So it becomes a bigger, more prominent long tail. Why is this happening? Is because there's the models, the LLM component, the generative component is able to synthesize. And so we're giving them harder tasks. So we're maybe opening ChatGPT and starting to talk to it and then saying, hey, ChatGPT, I need a project management tool and my company size is this big and we have these requirements. So you start getting into these long tail questions very often. So again, I'm talking as a user, but then I'm switching my hat to a marketer. If I was a marketer at a project management tool, I need to understand that these users, the ways in which they're asking these questions is changing. It's expanding. It's getting more granular, and the long tail is kind of getting thicker and fuzzier, right? And so you have all these modifiers. And so the framework that we're using for this is this idea of earned and owned pages, and the idea of on-site and off-site. So I'm going to be going through some examples on how this applies to us starting to win market share for a question like this. So if I was ClickUp or Notion and I wanted to win this query, what do I need? Or I wanted to win this topic, what do I need to do? The first big thing is that ChatGPT and all these models, they're consulting multiple sources. So it's not an individual source. And this is the equivalent of the 10 blue links in SEO and your percentage or your share of traffic of those 10 blue links. what we're seeing is a wide difference of pages that are being cited as influencing these results. I have a ton of research around this on our blog, which is the 5%. And so you can read through some of our insights and white papers. I welcome you to do that. But some of the charts here where you see source 5% will have a deeper white paper that you can dive into to see more of this data. Um, Same thing for Perplexity, right? Like we have multiple answer engines. So in SEO, we have Google and Bing. In AEO, we'll have ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. So we have different search engines, slightly different results, right? Like they're not exactly the same. And so they behave and they source information from different places. Uh, the specifics of which sites appear here don't really matter as much as you being able to identify which one of those matter for your vertical specifically. And we're going to talk about this later. And so now we're going to talk about content. So we're basically covering at a high level how these things work, how are users using them, and now we want to know, okay, what can I do on my own site and third-party sites, again, owned and earned, to start winning in AEO, winning mindshare, winning share of voice in AEO. So the first thing that we need to know is that we have this idea of good content, and sometimes some of these things that are subjective um, can be hard to articulate and target for us as a team, or to our teams, or to our leadership, like managing down or managing up. And one framework that we like to use for the content quality in terms of SEO is, does it fulfill user intent? And in AEO in particular, one thing that we can do is we can make sure our content is answering all those questions that people have. So in this case, we're putting a demo here about a project management landing page, a project management tool landing page. And we're saying, is this content good? And the lens that we're going to use to analyze the quality of the content is it answering all the questions that people will have when they're trying to fulfill this intent, which is purchasing a project management tool. So you might need to cover things like the number of features it has, the price. You need to cover who is the right audience for this product, maybe some sort of specific use cases, like remote support or integration. And what this allows you to do is it will allow you to make sure that when the LLM is trying to answer that question on behalf of the user, it can source that data directly from you and from your page. And so what does that look like? What you want to do here, and this is kind of more practical advice, is in the SEO world, you wanted to have your topics and you had a list of target keywords that are keywords you want to target. In the AEO world, you want to have a list of questions that are the questions you want to target. And you want to make sure that all the questions that are connected to a specific topic are answered in the page that you're putting out to the world to win that topic, to be able to rank and influence that topic. So I'm going to go into some examples. So in this case, we're going to talk about B2B, and then we're going to do another example on consumer. For B2B, in particular, there is, we're going to go one level deeper. Again, I'm bringing you, so we saw AI is a huge market and growing. We have a big consumer platform kind of developing in front of us. We covered briefly what are topics and how is AEO different from SEO. So in SEO, we're clustering keywords. In AEO, we're going to be grouping questions that people are asking. And I started to touch a little bit into the idea of different question types influencing, being influenced by owned media or earned media. And we can also use a framework of on-site content and off-site content as ways to analyze or slice our strategy. And this is a great example right here. So shifting gears, like we're going to move from project management as the example to payroll software. And so if you're writing a page, or if you want to influence the user intent around someone that's trying to buy some payroll software solution, you're going to see that in the results, there's going to be a mix between owned media. So some payroll companies putting out their key features or their landing pages to win this, and some media sites that are covering it. And so one useful way to articulate your strategy is going to be, what are the things that I can do on site? So what can I do if I was rippling.com? What can I do on rippling.com that will help me influence this question? And then part of your team, just like you do influencer marketing on Instagram, a lot of these other sites that are media sites or partners are influencing the results. And so what you want to do here is you want to make sure you're appearing in those sites. And so this is a big change compared to SEO, is that now we have this search behavior being influenced by offsite properties. This is something that you could do before, but it was usually owned by an affiliate marketing team. And now we're seeing kind of this sort of moment where um, things that were maybe usually owned by PR or affiliate marketing start to have a heavy overlap with SEO. And so, um, again, what you want to do is something like this, where in your category, you want to generate a list of the most important citations for your vertical. And the way you do this is you want to generate a list of questions. I was showing you that list earlier. Um, so something like this. And for that list of questions, you want to generate a list of citations. And that will tell you what are the sites that you need to start to go after in order to be able to influence the results. A few big patterns that we're seeing here, we're seeing a lot of YouTube influencing Perplexity, AI overviews in particular. And we're seeing a lot of Wikipedia influencing things. We're going to talk briefly about that in a second. We might see some first-party content, right? Like Asana, Atlassian putting out their own view on productivity. You can use any tool out there. I'm going to go into a little bit of a tangent here to show you what this is an internal tool that we have, but you can buy any tools in the market. You can use Peak, Aerops, Scrunch AI. There's a ton of them. They all kind of generally do the same thing, which is you basically take a list of prompts or questions that you have, and what you do is you'll run them a number of times. In this demo right here, I'm looking at a flight search engine as a category, flight platforms or travel platforms. So you track a number of prompts or questions, and then you want to see, how is my performance by looking at the share of voice. Are we being mentioned in these? So if we assume we're kayak here, just as an example, you want to track this over time and see if you're trending up or down or if you're stable. But what's most important here is that you want to start going into your citations report and see which ones are the most important sites in your category. And these are the sites that are the most important for the specific questions that you are tracking. And so you want a list that looks like this, with basically the top domains that you that are influencing the category. You want to slice those domains in those two groups that we were showing you, right? Like you want to know which ones are going to be um, earned. So these are external domains that you want to influence, and which ones are going to be owned. So what are URLs on our site that can influence or are influencing these results. When you look at earned media, you're basically, what you want to do is you want to prioritize the URLs that are the most influential. In a way, this becomes like the influencer marketing of ChatGPT. Is not anymore that person on Instagram that has 1 million followers, but is whoever has this YouTube video that actually ranks for all the prompts that people have. So if someone is searching what are the best flight search tools, the person influencing that is this person right here, and we want to be on their channel and on this particular video, influencing the outcome of the results. You can do like basic things, right? Like you can see if your brand is included there or not, and using that, you can now do a quick gap analysis to understand which sites are going to be the ones that I want to reach out to or do partnerships with, so that I can increase my visibility. And staying here on this tangent, we briefly touched on how this worked, but I wanted to dive deeper. So when you run these queries, right, like you run this, what's the best way to find cheap flights from Spain to the US? What I recommend you do is you can just run those queries on different search engines, right? You can run that on Perplexity, you can run that on ChatGPT. And what you'll see here is you'll see that sometimes it will run a search. That means it's grounding the query. And again, we're going to go back and forth between kind of Perplexity and ChatGPT. And again, this is one of the queries that I'm tracking in my tool, so I can actually see the tracking over time. You want to use a tool so that you don't have to do this manually, but you want to do it manually so you understand what's happening behind the scenes. And what's happening behind the scenes here is that the model, it's telling you, hey, I'm running these queries, I'm looking at these results, and then I'm synthesizing all of that into this response. And in a way, the fact that a company appears here or not, so Google Flights, Skyscanner, Momondo, Kayak, is influenced by those sources, right? And so the source, again, can be owned or on site, your own site, or it can be a third party site like an influencer like Rick Steves, right? That is saying, hey, these are the tools you should use to book flights to Europe. Same thing you can do in ChatGPT. You can go down here, you can look at the list of sources, and it's just going to tell you, hey, these are the sources that are influencing how I synthesize or how I answer this question. Um, and again, every time your brand appears here or not, it's a brand mention. And the way you influence this result, the answer from ChatGPT, is by appearing here in these sources. So I'm going to go back to the slides. So again, this pie chart that you're seeing right here, this is what you want for your own, not just all productivity domains, not just all productivity questions, but for your own vertical, right? So, and so into going a little bit into the details. So answers can be influenced by your own results or your own website. When you have that, for example, in this case, like if you see the Kayak URL influencing this, what you want to do is you want to make sure this landing page that you're optimizing has the right content. And so the framework for that is a good landing page. What is good content is content that answers every question. So you want to make sure you list out all the questions and then start listing out the ways to cover that. In the payroll example, that would imply answering what are all the features you have and what are all the use cases that your page helps, that your site, that your product, sorry, helps you with. Um, Sometimes some question variants might be about integrations. And so you probably want to have specific details about your integration. So this is very relevant if you're doing software as a service and you have an integrations component, because we're seeing a lot of these questions with modifiers. So you might see something like, what is the best payroll software that has integrations with Pave? So Pave is a benchmarking tool for compensation. And so as a user, I'm searching for this integration. If you don't have this response, the model will not be able to cite your page, and it might skip you as a recommended option. And then the third big bucket that we're seeing is that help centers are generally receiving a large amount of citations, but they're not being particularly optimized. And so highly recommended to look at the questions. And then if some of those questions can be answered specifically with content on your help center, you can both expand the content in your help center and create new pages to answer those questions. So traditionally, you would build a help center just for support so that your support agents can send links or that someone can search in the help center things that they have questions about. But imagine now the thing that has the questions about your product is this search engine, this AI search engine that's asking questions and searching for things on behalf of their users. So the thing that's going to be running the query is going to be ChatGPT through a search engine. And let's actually do a quick demo here. So I was doing this one. Let's do a live one where I'm going to do what is the best payroll software with Pave integration, and QuickBooks integration. And what you will see here is that the model might run not just a single query, but it might run a few follow-up queries. So you're seeing here um, a general query about the integrations with Pave, but then you see this one, right? So Rippling Pave integration QuickBooks, or Deal or Gusto Pave integration QuickBooks, right? And so what's going to rank are those pages that we're telling you about, right? Like that integrations page, that help center page, that you actually need to make sure you're optimizing so that the model, when it is trying to answer the question, it can source the response and anchor the response on a specific easy to find resource for it, because the model doesn't want to lie, doesn't want to say things that are not substantiated on a specific source. And so the easier you make it for it to answer that, the higher you'll rank in the response of the model. So going back into the presentation, this is going to be a quick case study about some of the work we've done for Webflow, but you can imagine the category being website builders, right? And so again, in the classic SEO world, you might have had a query like best website builder, or maybe something slightly longer like website builder for designers. In the AEO world, that becomes a question, a longer question, right? And as you bring it down and as Perplexity tries to answer that question, you'll see that you can influence that with your own site, or you can influence it with earned mentions. A big portion of earned work. So now for the B2B case, we looked a lot at the owned side of things. So you creating your own content and making sure you're ranking. Here we're going to look at a few other kind of examples of how you tackle the earned side or the off-site portion of the strategy. In this case, we're seeing YouTube has a disproportionately large presence in both AI overviews, Perplexity, and a little bit on ChatGPT. However, the way you would optimize YouTube in the classic sense would be to look for the top YouTubers, and then maybe as you're looking at them, you would reach out to them, do maybe a sponsored video, and get some of their reach, some of their subscribers. What we're seeing that works in the case of AEO is actually not just working on YouTube. You need to be on this specific video on YouTube. And this video is about the best website builder. So it's not a tutorial, it's not some promotional thing. You actually need to appear in this content, and your brand needs to be mentioned in this type of content for you to have a mention. And that mention then becoming a mention that influences the responses through a citation. The other big channel, as I was showing you in that citations report that we're seeing up here, is Reddit. And you've probably heard a little bit about Reddit online, and you've heard how it's growing and more companies are trying to influence it. And this is a great example. So Webflow, what they're doing here is some of their team, very importantly, you don't want to intervene in Reddit in ways that are not elegant and that are maybe you want to do the right thing in Reddit in general. So you want to disclose your affiliation with whatever company or product you're promoting. You want to follow a rule of 9-1 or even more, 19-1. So you want to add value 9 times without promoting any product, add value to the communities that are influencing your search or your AEO space, and then once in a while you can plug in your product. If you happen to plug in your product because you believe you are the right solution and the best solution for something, you want to disclose your affiliation. And you don't want to make it super awkward. Just don't add like a huge disclaimer. You're participating in an online community. And so this is a very clean way that, for example, Vivian from Webflow used to say, hey, I'm from Webflow, and here's my point of view on this topic. The third idea here is that you can also use YouTube to influence earned or This would be basically your offsite content, so not on your main domain, but you still control it. So you can create content and aim it on YouTube, aiming at ranking for these topics. Again, so nothing is stopping you from creating a video with the same topic, best website builder in 2025, and help users make the right decision and pick the right product. The YouTube videos are a great source of citations. The models really like citing those. So it's an area where you can kind of get a ton of impact for maybe um, incremental work to whatever video content you're already doing or producing. I already covered this, but basically when you're doing content on your site, you want to have to understand the user intent. This is a process that we follow at the agency. We do content briefs for all the content that goes out to clients. And the content brief, the idea is to identify all those questions that people are asking. And so you want to have a process to develop so that the writer doesn't need to do this research or doesn't miss any of these questions that need to be answered. And instead you have a marketer kind of looking at data and making sure that all the questions go answered. I show you this at the beginning, but a lot of this work actually has impact. And the way to measure this would be there's an easy way, which is asking users where they found you and looking at referral traffic in your Google Analytics. You can actually set up very easily a report on Google Analytics to see the referral traffic from ChatGPT or Gemini. And if you do this work, what you'll see, for example, in the case of Webflow, is that you'll grow way faster than ChatGPT, which means that you're capturing market share in this new channel. So we actually believe right now is a moment to invest in this new channel, invest in developing the content on your own site, invest on earned media so you can capture citations and capture market share offsite as well, and potentially develop content offsite as well, like on YouTube and on Reddit, and building your presence there. So you can get ahead of your competitors and start capturing market share where they're still not investing in those platforms. For consumer, again, a little bit of the same example. You might see kind of a different distribution of domains, more than this specific example, which is just general for e-commerce. Again, I recommend you set up a tool. A good and easy one to use would be PKI, PEEC.ai, and you can generate your own version of that. In consumer, we're seeing another big channel, which is affiliate marketing, have a kind of a bit of a revival, and we're seeing pages like this influence AI search engines. So you can do a lot of work on the affiliate space to influence AEO. And I'm approaching the end of my presentation. I'm going to leave some time for questions, but to wrap up, you generally want to be using a tool to help you navigate the space. The core thing that you want to have is a tool that shows you your share of the answers. Again, you can go out there. We actually have, just to plug our domain again, the top article here are some of our favorite tools in the space and a comparison table. So you can go and try a few of them out. And in here, we also explain a little bit in our guide to AEO. We will explain what are the tools that you need to use, or like what are the metrics that you want the tools to track in the context of AEO. But in very short, a lot of things that are happening now are becoming multi-touch in terms of the user journey. So they might search something and they come back to your site directly without clicking on the link. So if I go here and I ask the model this question, and then I find Rippling, and then I just go to rippling.com, then I'm not going to see in my analytics that user coming from ChatGPT or Perplexity. But the thing that actually influenced a user was this response to this question. And so you want to be able to measure your share of voice. And the way you measure that is trying to approximate how many times this question is being asked, and then how many times do you appear as the answer to that question. So you want to have a share voice or a visibility score to go off, and you want to see progress in that over time. So when you have high percentage share voice, you want to defend that. If you have medium percentage, you want to increase your ranking there. If you have 0, you want to start winning. So those are the 3 frameworks. I already talked about some of those tools. And one question that we get very often is, this comes from the other side: can I use AI content to win at AI? And we actually, again, plug in our fabulous blog. We just published a study on this, and we're seeing AI content grow quite a bit and now surpassing human created content. This is a study that we did a few weeks ago. The issue is that the AI content is just not performing well. There's multiple reasons for that. I am not going to go too deep into the details, but what we recommend is always focusing on creating high quality premium content and avoiding using AI as the main driver of content creation, and using it as a tool, but not as the main tool that you use to create content. Um, AI content doesn't rank in Google and ChatGPT. Most of the content that performs best is created by humans. And again, I don't think this is a judgment on the quality of AI. I think this is more of a judgment on how humans are using AI in ways that are not proper, and then also how spammers are using AI to spam. And so a lot of spammy content making its way to different channels and having poor performance, which then potentially leads to Google or other systems classifying AI content as spammy content in general. So you want to be far away from that. Just make sure your content is extremely high quality. These are some of the details in our study. So basically, human content, way better rankings than AI content in general. And so just as a quick wrap up of the whole presentation, and I'm going to leave time for questions now, if there are any. The 3 big takeaways here is, we see AEO as the new SEO because we're seeing this convergence of platforms. We're seeing AI growing still to this day, increasing market share and increasing users and the top line number of people using these models. We're seeing these models also sending a lot of traffic and influencing consumer purchasing decisions. And the way you tackle that is through topics. So topical SEO, topical AEO, which are frameworks that we propose, and basically means you group user intent into topics, and then you start targeting those topics. And then lastly, the optimization side, you want to make sure you're tracking your share of voice, and then you want to make sure that you're creating content that answers every question, and that you optimize both on-site and off-site earned sources that are influencing the questions that you care about. I think that's it. This is my email and my LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, ask me questions. I'm going to be posting more of these on LinkedIn in upcoming weeks. And yeah, excited to chat and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Marcos, that was a really amazing webinar. A lot of insights. We talked like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like really impressed by all the insights from this like black box, which is called AI, and I think that you make it you translate it into really actionable items for marketers, for leaders, co-founders, and so on. So thank you so much. And we have some questions. So if somebody have some questions, write it down in whatever platform you're watching. This is in Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. But so far there's a question here. Let me change the.
Yeah, there's one
Let
from
me
Jason
show
Ford.
the
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
I'm going to read it. So going back to the example of searching for flights, how should a small travel agency or website that's trying to improve their ranking and wants to compete with Google Flights and Kayak with a lot lower budget and name recognition, what are gaps that we can exploit? And I think this is an amazing question. So if I go here, I would say the 2 big things that you want to do is you want to niche down. Let's go back to the example. That example in particular. So you want to niche down into questions that are more specific. So you want to know, first pass here is what you're seeing here. This would be the equivalent of the top 10 in Google. If you're number 15, it's just going to be hard to break into the top 10. So you want to go to a niche that you can compete in. In this case, what we're seeing, sometimes the model is just answering with like 4 or 5 options, which are the dominant players. And so you want to find some way in which you differentiate where they're not going to be able to compete with you. And so that might be, what is the best way to, or like the best travel agency to find cheap flights, right? Or like the best travel agency in Miami to find cheap flights from Spain to the US. So you want to go and again niche down. That would be the first recommendation. And then your question universe just becomes smaller, but it's smaller but more impactful because you can actually win at those. And then the second thing that you see that's quite interesting, some of these sources, the price or the cost to get into these pages might not be super high. And there's actually, like, anytime I search for this, you will see that there's kind of these weird little gaps that you can take advantage of. And I'm just going to show you one. So again, I would go through each one of these citations and see, how do I appear here? Uh, and for example, for this one, this is a forum, right, on the Rick Steves Europe website. And um, you can participate in this forum. It's not closed to big companies. And actually, probably big companies are never going to come here and give their opinion. So what I'm seeing is, for example, on Reddit, forums, UGC, there's this arbitrage opportunity because you can actually go to places that they're not going to. So you'll see this Facebook thread, this YouTube video, right? Can you participate? Can you reach out to that person that created that video who's not Mr. Beast, is a normal YouTuber, and get on their channel? And there's a ton of opportunities to do that. And so that's very exciting because it's opening the playing field also to new entrants and new players and smaller players. Yeah.
Good. Really, really nice. And following with that question of how, like, thinking about small companies, startups, like, where do you recommend to start? Like, if they are new on all these, like, should they start like with the SEO, having a good SEO strategy, or filling out questions, the most common questions, or how do you see it should be the first
Yeah. The
steps?
first few steps. Yeah, that's a great question. I think the if I was starting from scratch, my recommendation in general is to create your topic universe. And again, your topic universe is, what are all the things that people are searching or asking? So either AEO questions or SEO queries that you want to rank for. One of my favorite tools is Ahrefs. You can actually just go there. They have a few tools for this, but you can research some keywords and start to map them out. Um, for example, AI certification, right? And just see how many people are searching for this. What are some variants of those questions? And start making a list of these, and then you can start plugging them and seeing the rankings. So the classic version of this will be SEO rankings, and then you're going to have the question version of this, which are going to be AI questions. And so you can do both. I like to connect the two worlds so you can actually get a little bit of volume data. The volume data is in the SEO world, like these numbers right here. So you know which ones are big and someone is asking them, or someone is interested in this, because you don't want to be optimizing for something that no one's searching for. You want there to be some sort of audience. And so I would definitely go and make something like this. I will look a lot like the spreadsheet I was showing, where you have a lot of these and their search volume. And then you can start running these in AI and running them in Google and start finding, are there any gaps that I can play in, and just systematically go through the questions. And so a good SEO program, a good AEO program would be, hey, every week we're going to take 50 questions and we're going to influence them somehow, right? We're going to create content on our site. We're going to go to Reddit threads and participate. We're going to go to communities. We're going to make a partnership with a YouTuber. We're going to publish some videos and so on. So you want to map out the universe and then create a program to tackle that universe kind of systematically. Oh, I'm going to stay on this one.
Nice. And another question now, moving to the big companies.
Yep.
Like, how do you see all this is changing the structure of the marketing teams? Like, do you think that is needed like a new profile, like, or is like just a new job from the SEO team, or how do you see it
Yeah,
overall it
that's a great
working?
question. I actually think the let me stop sharing for a second. I think in terms of the SEO world, I think AI is influencing things in a couple ways. So on the SEO side, what we're seeing because of these models being influenced by offsite media, SEO has been traditionally mostly only focusing on site. I think it requires SEO teams to be more flexible and adaptable and start looking at offsite properties and how to optimize them, but using the SEO lens. Again, so this is how do we do YouTube, but focusing on search. And then on the other hand, I think marketing teams will shift a little bit into marketers that can use AI to generate to identify gaps and arbitrage gaps. And so I think this is pushing for a marketer that's crafty. And then one of the reasons I love what you're doing with the certification hub is you want, I think as you're hiring marketers, you want people that understand how these things work and how they can exploit them, how they can use AI. Not We were talking about AI search and AI as a channel, but I think AI as a tool is another big opportunity to both grow as a professional, right? And then as you're hiring, filtering for professionals that are leveraging AI to create incremental returns or better returns for their companies. Examples of this might be people that are using Cursor or vibe coding to create little tools to make their lives easier day to day, right? Or people that are using the ChatGPT MCP to connect to that keywords database and generate a strategy very quickly, and so on. So there's like a number of things that you can do to take things to a next level as a marketer. That I think is just going to be almost a requirement for all marketers out there.
Perfect. And this is actually I have a question that a friend shared with me directly, but overall mentions that you said like we recommend to create high quality content for Reddit, for overall YouTube videos and so on. But what are some of the good practices, or what like more specific, like some specific recommendations of how to create quality, elegant content?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good question, and almost at the core of what we do in terms of Graphite and how we connect SEO to content more broadly. One framework, I think good content is kind of tricky. Is that it has a lot to do with taste, and it's similar to saying like what's good design. But I would say maybe a bit of a unique view on that is the view of a growth marketer, a growth person, is what is a metric or a number that we can use to quantify what is good content. And so good content should be content that performs well, right? And so um, what what is performance? So performance might be ranking. And so if you have content that ranks well, then you're aligning yourself with Google. Google wants good content. And so they want people to go to your page and not bounce, right? Because your content was so good that they just stayed there. And so basically, good content would be content that people read and they consume and they don't bounce. So we're shifting from kind of the subjective question into more of an objective metric. So in video, this might be your retention rate. So if you're always improving your retention throughout the video, that means that the content is better, is capturing better the audience. And so you can basically take that to the extreme and it's like start tracking it and then measuring. Again, you have the taste side, but then there's like this very quantitative thing that you can do and it's objective to make sure your content is as good as it can be. And so that would imply researching what people want to see or read and then giving them that. And so I would say it's all about research and aligning yourself with the channel that also wants the same thing. So YouTube wants great videos. The way they measure that is by looking at retention. Google wants great content. The way they measure that is by looking at, are people bouncing back and looking at another result because this one didn't answer the question that they had. And so if you're getting those things, then your content is good. And so you want to do more of that. So it's that process of defining that loop of like feedback loop that allows you to refine that, and actually eventually you'll have good taste and you'll know what works because you've done the trial and error so many times that you just become really good at it.
I love that. Eventually, you will have great taste. Good
Yeah.
taste.
Yeah, it takes a lot of reps.
Makes sense. I love how it's combined, like having good taste with metrics and iterations of the process.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Good. I think that we are finishing like this amazing session. Anything else like where they can follow you, like if they have further questions? Uh,
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I think that's where I post, and Graphite will post most of our new content and new studies that we're doing and the strategies that we're sharing. So you can find me on LinkedIn. This is my first and last name, or you can do Marcos at Graphite, and I should come up. And then you can also send me an email, and I'm usually back to reply. I'm usually fast to reply. So yeah, excited to chat on SEO or jam and like strategies and so on.
Actually, maybe we have 2 minutes more because we have another question.
Yeah, let's do it. I can keep going for a bit more. I'll read it. So AI tools and usage have changed a lot over the past few years. The advice from 3 to 5 years ago might not be as relevant today. What are your thoughts on how the landscape of AI tools may look in 3 to 5 years from now? Oh, that's a good one. Um, I think the big thing that we're seeing is so tracking AI and AI tools. So on AEO in particular, so tracking again your share of voice and your performance, that's becoming commoditized. So we're seeing a lot of products appear. What we think might be the next generation is products that recommend or try to guide you in executing. And so I think we might see kind of an expansion of the software as a service market there with a bit of recommendations, not just tracking. On the other hand, I think on AI in general, my current belief is that we're going to have like 2 or 3 big products that are working and will keep working. So one is chats. We'll see a lot more chat interfaces, and chat is going to become something like Excel. Like if you go to a company today and you say, I don't know how to use a spreadsheet, I don't know how to use Excel, you're probably not getting hired. And I think it's going to be the same thing. I think the second one that's going to be like that is starting to appear, but it's not super prevalent yet outside of technical circles, is workflows. So the idea of agents and workflows and setting up a Zapier or a Zapier, there's a ton of them. There's Stack AI, Gumloop, NA10, which are all tools that we need to automate a lot of our work. I think this is going to be a core responsibility of most people. And you're going to need to know how to use, just like you do a word processor and Excel and Google Sheets, you're going to need to use a chat, and you'll have to be very good at it. And so yeah, I think that's where things are heading.
Nice. Good. Well, with that great question and great answer, we finished this great conversation with Marcos. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing great insights, the presentation, all the great tools and tips to be relevant in ChatGPT and Perplexity and so on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alejandro. My pleasure. And thanks to the audience as well.
Thank you. Well, thank
Bye.
you, everybody. Bye.